Nkem stood by the window, looking out at the busy streets of Lagos. Her phone buzzed again, another message from her mother about the upcoming Christmas dinner. This year, the pressure to present a boyfriend had reached unbearable levels. Her cousin Adaobi, the golden child, was flying in from London with her fiancé, a successful lawyer. Nkem's parents had made it clear, if you don't bring someone, you'll be the family's disgrace. But Nkem didn't have a boyfriend, and the thought of another year of judgment was exhausting. With no options in sight, she turned to the unthinkable, a professional date-for-hire service. Little did she know that this impulsive decision would lead her into a web of secrets, love and power she could never have imagined. Desperate times called for desperate measures. Nkem scrolled through the website that specialized in providing professional plus-ones for awkward social events. Her heart pounded as she selected her criteria: tall, handsome, well-spoken. Within minutes, a notification popped up. Her match was set. His name was Teo, and they were to meet at her favorite restaurant in Lekki. Nkem's anxiety spiked as she stepped into the restaurant. She hadn't told anyone about this, not even her best friend, Dami. What would people think if they found out she'd hired a fake date? She spotted him, a tall, handsome man seated alone at a table. His broad shoulders filled out his simple shirt, and there was a casual confidence in the way he sat. He stood as soon as he saw her approach, flashing a perfect smile. "Hi, Nkem. Right? I'm Tayo," he said, his voice deep and smooth. Nkem exhaled in relief. This is going to work, she thought. Yes, it's me. Thanks for doing this. What Nkem didn't know was that Tayo wasn't her hired date. The real Tayo, a professional actor, had cancelled last minute, but the app didn't notify her. The man sitting before her was none other than Tayo Williams, one of Nigeria's wealthiest oil magnates. He had been at the restaurant for a quiet meal, disguised in simple clothes to escape the public eye. When Nkem mistook him for her date, Tayo, intrigued by her unguarded sincerity, decided to play along. He was tired of women being drawn to his wealth and fame. For once, he wanted to experience something real, something grounded. As Nkem briefed him on the family dinner, Tayo listened intently. Her plan was simple: act charming, answer a few awkward questions from her parents, and disappear by New Year's. What harm could a few hours of make-believe do? But as Nkem spoke, Tayo found himself drawn to her. She was strong, intelligent, and clearly trying to navigate a world of impossible family expectations. For the first time in a long while, Tayo felt invisible, the man beneath the wealth. The family home was as grand as it was bustling with energy when Tayo and Nkem arrived. Nkem's parents had spared no expense this Christmas. A long dining table covered in jollof rice, fried plantains, and suya stretched across the room, the aroma filling the air. Relatives crowded the house, talking and laughing loudly, the joy of the season palpable. "Ah, Nkem!" her mother exclaimed, rushing to embrace her. "And this must be your fiancé?" The word was said with a mix of pride and curiosity. Tayo smiled confidently. "Yes, I'm Tayo," he said, effortlessly sliding into the role of the perfect suitor. His charm was undeniable, and soon he was fielding questions from Nkem's father about his work. Tayo spoke vaguely about consulting in energy, careful not to reveal too much. To Nkem's surprise, her parents were genuinely impressed. Even her critical aunt, Auntie Ijoma, seemed to approve. As the night wore on, Nkem found herself laughing at Tayo's jokes, the ease of their banter feeling strangely natural. After the dinner, Tayo drove Nkem home, the city lights of Lagos flickering around them. The silence in the car was comfortable, but something had shifted between them. Nkem was no longer seeing Tayo as just a hired date. There was something more, a connection she hadn't expected.
Nkem's heart raced as she scrolled through the endless stream of posts and comments. Pictures of her and Tayo smiling and looking cozy at her family's Christmas dinner were plastered everywhere. People were speculating about their relationship, discussing her background and scrutinizing every detail of her life. She felt exposed, humiliated. And most shocking of all, Tayo wasn't just a wealthy man. He was one of the richest men in Nigeria. She couldn't believe it. He had lied to her, concealed his identity. The thought made her stomach turn. Nkem's first instinct was to call Tayo, but she couldn't bring herself to dial his number. She felt betrayed, not only by Tayo, but also by herself. How could she have been so naive? By the time Nkem gathered the courage to confront Tayo, she was fuming. She met him at a quiet cafe, her eyes stormy, her body tense. Tayo knew something was wrong the moment she walked in. "Nkem, what's going on?" he asked, standing as she approached the table. "You lied to me," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "All this time you've been pretending to be someone you're not. You're not just some regular guy. You're Tayo Williams, the billionaire." Tayo sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't mean to lie, Nkem. I just didn't want my status to change the way you saw me. From the moment we met, I wanted something real, and I was afraid that once you knew who I was, everything would change." "But everything has changed," Nkem shot back. "Do you know what it feels like to find out through the internet? To see my life splashed across social media without any warning? I trusted you, Tayo." Tayo's expression softened. "I know, and I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far, but my feelings for you are real. None of this," he gestured between them, "none of this was fake to me." "I don't know if I can believe you," Nkem said, her voice cracking. She stood up, grabbing her purse. "I need time to think." And with that, she walked out, leaving Tayo staring after her, his heart sinking. The weeks that followed were a blur for Nkem. She threw herself into work, avoiding Tayo's calls and texts. Her heart ached, but she couldn't bring herself to forgive him. Every time she thought about him, she felt a mixture of longing and anger. She had fallen for the man she thought Tayo was, humble, kind, and sincere. But now, all she could see was the billionaire who had lied to her. Meanwhile, Tayo was at a loss. He missed Nkem desperately, but he respected her need for space. He couldn't shake the guilt of having misled her, but despite his wealth and power, he had no idea how to win her back. For the first time in his life, Tayo realized that love couldn't be bought, and it was a hard lesson to learn. While Nkem was busy dealing with her emotional turmoil, Tayo's social circle was buzzing with the news of his viral photos. Among those paying attention was Vanessa Adeoye, a well-known socialite and one of the most beautiful women in Lagos. Vanessa had been after Tayo for years. She knew he had money, power, and connections, and she was determined to be part of his world. When she saw the pictures of Tayo and Nkem online, Vanessa's competitive instincts kicked in. She decided to take advantage of Tayo's newfound single status, sensing that there was trouble between him and Nkem. At a high-profile charity event one evening, Vanessa made her move. Dressed in a shimmering silver gown that hugged her curves, she found Tayo at the bar and sauntered over with a flirtatious smile. "Tayo, darling," she purred, placing a perfectly manicured hand on his arm. "You're looking more handsome than ever." Tayo smiled politely, but there was no spark of interest in his eyes. "Vanessa, it's been a while." "Too long," she said, stepping closer, her body brushing against his. "I heard about what happened with that girl, Nkem, right? Such a shame. But I suppose someone like you deserves to be with someone who truly understands your lifestyle." Tayo's eyes narrowed. He knew what Vanessa was doing. She had always been after him, but he had never been interested. "Vanessa, whatever you think is going on between Nkem and me is none of your business. And for the record, I'm not interested." Undeterred, Vanessa leaned in, her voice sultry. "Come on, Tayo, you know we'd be perfect together. We've run in the same circles for years. Why settle for someone who doesn't understand your world when you could have me?" Tayo stepped back, his face serious. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not available. And I never will be, Vanessa. Good night." With that, he walked away, leaving Vanessa fuming. She wasn't used to rejection, especially not from a man like Tayo. Months had passed since Nkem and Tayo's falling out, but the pain of their separation still lingered in both of their hearts. Nkem had tried to move on, burying herself in work and avoiding anything that reminded her of Tayo. But no matter how hard she tried, her thoughts always drifted back to him, the man who had made her laugh, who had understood her in ways no one else had. One evening, while attending a charity event for her non-profit organization, Nkem spotted a familiar face in the crowd. Tayo stood across the room, looking as handsome as ever in a tailored suit. Their eyes met, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Nkem's heart raced. She hadn't seen him in months, and the sight of him brought back a flood of emotions: hurt, longing, love. Tayo made his way toward her, his expression unreadable. When he finally stood in front of her, he spoke softly. "Nkem, can we talk?" Nkem hesitated, but nodded. They found a quiet corner of the room, away from the crowd. Tayo's eyes were filled with regret as he began to speak. "Nkem, I've thought about you every day since we last spoke," he said, his voice sincere. "I'm sorry for everything, for lying, for not telling you who I really was. I was afraid that once you knew, you'd see me differently. But that was a mistake. I should have trusted you from the start." Nkem's heart softened, but she wasn't ready to forgive so easily. "I just don't understand why you couldn't tell me. You made me look like a fool, Tayo." "I know," Tayo said, his voice thick with emotion. "I messed up, but my feelings for you were never fake. They're real, Nkem. I fell in love with you, and I didn't want to lose that." Tears welled up in Nkem's eyes as she listened. She wanted to believe him, but the pain of his deception still lingered. "How do I know you won't lie to me again?" Tayo took her hands in his grip firm yet gentle. "Because I'm standing here now telling you the truth. I don't want to live without you, Nkem. If you'll give me another chance, I promise I'll be honest with you from now on." Nkem stared into his eyes, searching for any sign of insincerity, but all she saw was the man she had fallen for, the man she still loved. They decided to take things slowly, rebuilding their relationship one step at a time. This time, there were no secrets between them. Tayo introduced Nkem to his world, the world of luxury, power, and responsibility that came with being a billionaire. It was overwhelming at first, but Tayo made sure she never felt out of place. He wanted her by his side, not as a trophy, but as his partner. Nkem, too, shared more of her life with Tayo. She introduced him to her friends, took him to her favorite local spots, and opened up about her dreams for the future. She wanted to expand her non-profit, helping more underprivileged children in Nigeria gain access to education. As they spent more time together, their love grew deeper. Tayo wasn't just the billionaire oil mogul anymore. He was Nkem's Tayo, the man who loved her for who she was, not for what she could give him. One evening as they walked along the beach, Tayo surprised Nkem with a heartfelt confession. "I've been thinking about our future," he said, his voice soft but serious. "I want to build a life with you, Nkem. I don't care about the money or the status. I just want you." Nkem's heart swelled with emotion. She had never expected to find love like this. Genuine, deep, and unconditional. "I love you, Tayo," she whispered, wrapping her arms around him. Their love had faced challenges, lies, misunderstandings, and external pressures, but they had come out stronger on the other side. Nkem realized that true love wasn't about perfection. It was about standing by each other through the good and the bad. A year after their fateful meeting, Tayo took Nkem back to the restaurant where it all began. It was a quiet evening, the city lights twinkling outside the window as they reminisced about the strange, accidental start to their relationship. "I never thought that night would change my life," Nkem said with a smile. "Neither did I," Tayo replied, reaching into his pocket. "But it did."
Before Nkem could respond, Tayo got down on one knee, holding out a simple, elegant ring. Her breath caught in her throat as he looked up at her with the same sincerity she had fallen in love with. "Nkem, you are the love of my life. You've shown me what it means to love and be loved, not for wealth or status, but for who I am. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Nkem's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Tayo. Yes, 1,000 times." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, they both knew that this time there were no pretenses. There was only love, pure, honest, and everlasting. As the months passed, Nkem and Tayo began planning their wedding, blending traditional Nigerian customs with modern touches. Nkem envisioned a celebration filled with vibrant colors, music, and family, while Tayo wanted to ensure that their love story shone through every detail. The day of the wedding arrived, and the venue was a stunning garden overlooking the Lagos coastline. Guests filled the seats, a mix of family, friends, and influential figures from Tayo's business world, all buzzing with excitement. Nkem wore a breathtaking traditional wedding dress made from intricate lace and rich fabrics, embellished with delicate beadwork that sparkled in the sunlight. Her hair was adorned with traditional gold jewelry, and her smile radiated joy as she stood at the entrance, waiting for her moment. Tayo, clad in a crisp tailored suit, looked dashing. As he stood at the altar, his eyes scanned the crowd until they locked onto Nkem. The world faded away, and all he could see was her. As Nkem walked down the aisle, the music shifted to a beautiful rendition of a classic Nigerian love song. The warmth of the sun bathed her in golden light, and the guests stood, captivated by the sight of her. Tayo's heart raced as she approached, his expression a mix of love and awe. Their ceremony was a blend of Nigerian traditions, including the exchange of vows and the tying of the knot with colorful strings, symbolizing their unity. As they said their vows, Tayo looked deeply into Nkem's eyes. "You are my everything, my partner, and my greatest joy. I promise to love you fiercely and protect you always." Nkem's voice trembled with emotion as she responded, "You have shown me a love I never knew existed. I vow to support you, to laugh with you, and to cherish every moment we share." The officiant pronounced them husband and wife, and as Tayo leaned in for the kiss, the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. They embraced, sealing their vows with a passionate kiss that left everyone breathless. After the ceremony, the newlyweds led their guests to a grand reception area filled with twinkling fairy lights and tables adorned with elegant centerpieces. A traditional Nigerian feast awaited them, with jollof rice, suya, pounded yam, and a variety of local delicacies. At the reception, laughter and music filled the air. The couple shared their first dance, swaying gently to a romantic Afrobeat song, their bodies moving in perfect harmony. The guests surrounded them, capturing the moment on their phones, celebrating the love that had blossomed against all odds.
As the evening wore on, Nkem caught sight of Adobe, who had initially been skeptical about Tayo. Now she approached with a genuine smile. "I was wrong about him, Nkem. I can see how happy you are, and I'm truly happy for you both. Thank you, Adobe. It means a lot to have your support." As the night drew to a close, Tayo took Nkem's hand and led her outside to the terrace. "Tayo, this day has been everything I dreamed of and more," Nkem said, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Tayo pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her waist. "And it's just the beginning, my love. We have a lifetime of adventures ahead of us." If you loved this story, don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends.